Hello, Los Angeles. I'm Mayor Eric Garcetti, and I'm so honored to welcome you to the second installment of our city's LGBT Heritage Month celebration. As we come to the end of a long, tough, traumatic, and unprecedented year, I want to take a moment to honor the frontline workers across the LGBTQ plus community, the nurses and doctors saving lives, the activists marching for justice, the advocates lifting up the voices of the LGBTQ plus Angelenos who have faced a spike, an unacceptable spike, in hate crimes and disproportionately have been impacted by COVID-19. Today, Los Angeles will honor one of the groups of activists who stood as a powerful voice for the voiceless last summer. Black LGBTQ plus activists for change led the effort to create the first memorialized space in Los Angeles dedicated to transgender people of color. The All Black Lives Matter mural on Hollywood Boulevard, which serves to elevate the intersectionalities of the LGBTQ plus community. Stay tuned for a conversation between Councilmember Mitch O'Farrell and these powerful advocates who embody LA's core values, a place where everyone can make a difference, a city where everyone belongs, and a place where everyone can know the blessings of safety and equity, of security and true equality. I wish everybody a safe and a happy Pride Month. Thank you.
Hello, I'm LA Controller Ron GALPERIN, LA's first out and proud citywide elected, and I'm so honored to be part of this special celebration to honor our LGBTQ plus community. Thank you so much to my colleague, Councilmember Mitch O'Farrell, for bringing this virtual event to life. This year marks the 10th anniversary of LGBT Heritage Month at the City of LA. It's also the 51st anniversary of LA Pride, a time to give thanks and celebrate how far we've come in the LGBTQ plus community. After a year of so many challenges, it feels good to take some time out for a celebration. But we know challenges still exist. Homophobia, transphobia, xenophobia, and racism are still very much with us. We saw this during the pandemic when communities of color have been hardest hit and when the movement for racial justice ignited necessary dialogue and action in LA and throughout the country over how to confront systematic inequality and to prioritize inclusion. It's a fight shared with the LGBTQ plus community. Our community was ravaged by AIDS. Our lives were outlawed. LGBTQ plus people live in fear and even can be executed in parts of our world. Our trans family here too often faces violence and discrimination today. And as the son and grandson of Holocaust survivors, as the first in my family to be born in this country, I take it as an obligation to work in solidarity. If not for the work of activists who came before me, I wouldn't have the freedom to marry or to have my own family. I wouldn't be married to my wonderful husband, Zach, and we wouldn't have our two incredible children. I wouldn't be elected and have the platform to do what I do and to be a frontline activist for equality. I'm particularly honored and pleased to be able to thank and congratulate honoree Black LGBTQ plus Activists for Change, B.L.A.C, for the work they've done over this past year to bring Black LGBTQ plus voices to the forefront, and of course to amplify the message that all Black lives matter. We have much work to do. Together, we can and we must shape a better world today and for future generations. Thank you for the work you are doing day in and day out to make a difference, to forge coalitions, and to ensure that everyone's voice counts. And now, I present, live in studio, Councilmember Mitch O'Farrell and Pride Month honoree, Black LGBTQ plus Activists for Change. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Garcetti and Controller Ron GALPERIN, for your inspiring words. I joined them, along with Council President Nuri Martinez, Councilmember Mike Bonin, and the entire City Council in wishing the City of Los Angeles a healthy and happy Pride. Now, you just heard a lot about Black Activists for Change, B.L.A.C organization, and you're about to meet these founders of this organization. We kicked off Pride Month by honoring the first 3 citywide Pride Month honorees. Outreach at UFCW Local 770. You can rewatch that event through my social media channel at Councilmember O'Farrell. Today, we'll continue the celebration and acknowledge our inspiring friends at Black LGBTQ Activists for Change, also known as B.L.A.C. The All Black Lives Matter movement is about bringing visibility to queer people within the Black community. As an openly gay elected official myself, and as the first Native American elected to the City Council, I have made it a personal mission to make visible the most disenfranchised people in our city. For years, my office has closely collaborated with the Los Angeles Transgender Advisory Council and a multitude of pioneering efforts with city departments and LGBTQ nonprofits and grassroots organizations in building equitable infrastructure that elevate historically marginalized communities. What I've seen time and again is the unimaginable hardships that queer people of color, specifically Black transgender women, face as they seek to live their best, most authentic lives, often deprived of the basic necessities of housing, employment, and health care. At this time last year in our country, advocates tracked at least 27 deaths of transgender or gender nonconforming people in the United States due to violence, the majority of whom were Black transgender women. And unfathomably, by the end of 2020, 44 transgender or gender nonconforming people were reported fatally shot or killed by other violent means, the majority of which, again, were Black and Latinx transgender women. Across the country, the societal epidemic of transphobia and racism is costing Black and queer people their lives. Aware of this tragic reality and responding to the demands for justice across our city and nation last summer, I joined Black LGBTQ Activists for Change, who led the All Black Lives Matter March, denouncing racial injustice and supporting LGBTQ rights. My office was equipped to assist the B.L.A.C. organization in their mission of addressing the social injustices plaguing our country and bring visibility to the Black queer communities that are too often left out of the conversations regarding equity. Together, we partnered with entertainment company Trailer Park, the Board of Public Works, and our Department of Transportation to install the All Black Lives Matter street design on Hollywood Boulevard. This endeavor would prove to be an inspirational and collaborative partnership that included people from all backgrounds and walks of life. And on June 14th, on the weekend that would have held the annual LA Pride Parade marking the 50th anniversary of the first recognized Pride March in the United States, tens of thousands gathered on Hollywood Boulevard, one of the most recognizable and diverse streets in America, for a peaceful, deeply spiritual demonstration, setting the tone for all demonstrations that followed. The All Black Lives Matter March and the visual impact of the street design went viral. These images were in newspapers, news programs, and social media across the world stage with a backdrop of Hollywood. There was no denying that the starring role was the message of visibility for Black queer communities and queer people of color. The All Black Lives Matter March was a significant milestone, not only in the city's history, but for the history of our nation. Together, we met the moment. Now, before I introduce our in-studio guests, I want to share a video that gives us some insight into our honorees, Black LGBTQ Activists for Change. Let's roll the video. Wonderful imagery. I am so proud to introduce GERALD, GARTH, and Lucky Fuller from B.L.A.C. Welcome to the studio, and happy Pride. What a summer it was.
Yes, thank you so much, Councilman. We're so glad to be here.
Likewise, thank you, Councilmember.
We are so glad you're creators of B.L.A.C. and what you did with an incredibly short turnaround is nothing short of amazing. So GERALD, last year, following the horrific murder of George Floyd, people took action and demanded justice. So you co-founded B.L.A.C. Can you tell our audience how and why Black LGBTQ plus Activists for Change was created?
Sure. So like you mentioned, last year we saw just a horrific rise of black murder and sort of black inequality in a visible way that we had probably never seen in our generation. But we did notice among sort of this outcry around black equity that there was a almost sort of erasure of the black LGBTQ plus experience. And so while we as a collective were really centering and building ourselves around responding to the murder of George Floyd and many others, we recognized that our LGBTQ plus siblings were not being recognized. And so near the same time, there was an individual, Tony McDade, who was also murdered by the police, a black trans man, and only got a fraction of sort of the visibility and outcry that we saw for many others. And so we kind of did as a responsibility to make sure that we were really amplifying, highlighting, and not forgetting our LGBTQ plus siblings, particularly, as you mentioned, transgender, nonconforming, and non-binary folks. And so a collective group of individuals who represent the LGBTQ plus spectrum really came together to look at what can we do to further amplify the black LGBTQ plus experience. And so that collective was founded as BLAC, the Black LGBTQ plus Activists for Change.
Amazing. As you're talking, I'm reminded of sort of where the LGBTQ plus movement began, whether it's the Black Cat Bar in Silver Lake or Stonewall in New York. You have redefined what our tradition collectively has done for this country and this world. Absolutely. And that is the visibility issue. And man, did you all meet the moment. I mean, yes. You just elevated, you kind of blew it wide open. Also, you have a wonderful board made up of hardworking Los Angeles leaders.
Absolutely.
They're all superheroes in their own way. So tell us a little bit about the leaders.
Absolutely, yes, and thank you for that. And like I mentioned, it was definitely a collective effort, and a number of voices came together to really move this work forward. And so my co-founder, Brandon Anthony, a nationally known producer and event coordinator. We have Paul J. Scott, Blossom Brown, Shayla Demure, Michelle A., Pastor Sammy Haynes, Jeanette Brunson, and of course my brother here, Lucky. Yes.
Fantastic. So Lucky, you are a Superman in your own right, and anyone who knows you knows that. Right. A member of the Transgender Advisory Council, where I first met you, founder of Invisible Men, and you work with the LGBT Los Angeles Center. You have such a passion for service. What keeps you motivated?
A lot of the things that keep me motivated, well, in particular, my children, because if we look at our youth and the next generation that comes behind us, like, we need to make sure that they're going to be okay. And if we get it right now, then they'll be okay when they get to our age and get to navigating through the world. But also just looking at humanity as a whole. I just like people, and I just want people to see the humanity in each other. That
really shows. It translates too. I mean, the fact that you give your own family and others really a foundation from which to grow from. I mean, that's the single best thing. You're giving people a leg up and a solid base that they can, live through your courage. It's amazing. GERALD, last summer, we're in the middle of a raging pandemic. It's super frightening and scary, but there's a calling, stirring in all of our hearts to take to the streets and assert our rightful place in the conversation. So walk us through the journey of planning and executing the All Black Lives Matter March.
Sure, and like you said, Councilmember, it was definitely a time that I personally had never seen, and many of the folks of my generation had never seen either, but I definitely considered it a responsibility because, like you mentioned, we have seen so much of our LGBTQ plus rights and experience be built on the shoulders of those individuals who oftentimes did not get the recognition or even the resources to do the work. And so one of the fundamental points of our work is that it was really built to center, highlight, and amplify our ancestors and elders who have really been moving forward this work and to give us the opportunity to create this. And so recognizing that, like I mentioned, I definitely considered it a calling. And so looking at sort of all of the just outcry in the country, I recognize there's a unique experience of individuals who identify as Black and or African American, and also a unique experience of those who identify as LGBTQ+, and then even a different experience for those at the intersection. And so often, folks who identify as LGBTQ+ in the Black community don't feel like there's a centered space for them, and there's a great deal of racism still within the LGBTQ+ community centered at Black folks. And so being able to create something that really allowed not only Black LGBTQ+ people to come together, but all of our friends, allies, supporters, and individuals who wanted to collaborate to further enhance that work really made the work a lot easier. No less sort of overwhelming, but having that level of support made it really easy. And so the process really happened very, very quickly. And so in response to sort of the string of murders that were really centered or are most visible around George Floyd, there was some work that had come together with a few community voices where sort of the idea was that we wanted to do something and didn't quite know what that meant. And so there was ideas of doing some form of a demonstration, and we had no idea sort of to the degree in which it would grow. And so so many great friends and partners came together and made themselves available to amplify their work, you and your team being one of them. And so at the same time of us organizing this march, we were really nailing down the installation of the All Black Lives Matter mural. And so looking at sort of this great example of what collaboration looks like, working with a number of great individuals, institutions, and such, really allowed us to center the movement in a way, again, which I had never seen, and which has quite honestly become a historical moment in our time.
Has it ever? I mean, I think one aspect of leadership is there are people wanting to do something good for the greater good, for society. They know there's an issue, and they want to do something, and then in the vacuum, leaders emerge. And I think that's what B.L.A.C did. I think you all emerged, you led this movement, you gave voice to folks who wanted to do something but didn't know exactly what it was. You defined it, and you brought people along, and you just filled that space and that yearning. You defined what that was for everyone. It's amazing. So let me ask you both, in an act of solidarity with the social justice movement, the entertainment company Trailer Park reached out to my office in hopes of creating a street design similar to others seen across the country. But of course, we took it to a whole new level. With an incredibly quick turnaround, we all got together, collaborated under your leadership. What was it like working with the team at Trailer Park, and we're going to bring Rick on in a second, to create and install this amazing design? What was that like? And
well, first, I just want to say a special thank you to Rick Eisenman and his team at the Trailer Park Group. Absolutely. They have made themselves, he and his team, a resource beyond anything I ever would have thought imaginable. So while the Black team, Lucky and me, we were really sort of ideating on what could be, it was partners like the Councilmember's office and Rick and his team at Trailer Park that really actually executed it. And so, you know, even working with, you know, the Department of Transportation and the Department of Public Works and the Department of Cultural Affairs and the Department of Public Safety, that's all these things that were very new to us sort of as organizers. And so I definitely want to create a special place to say thank you in that space. But as relates to Rick and his team, and I'll let Lucky speak to that, you know, Rick, very much like you and your team, came to the table and said, this is what I can bring, what can we do with it? And so within a matter of quite literally hours, Rick was able to pull together design efforts and paint and shipping in equipment and sort of all those pieces, and even you and your team around, you know, closing the street and cleaning the street and, you know, stopping the stoplights. There's so many things that I think a lot of people don't really consider when it comes to that, or even ensuring sort of the integrity of the design and the safety of the people. And so that was just a moment I wanted to carve out to say, again, thank you to all of our agency partners and community partners, but then also our collaborative partners like Rick at Trailer Park. So in that full sort of 48 hours, I'll let Lucky walk us through that.
Yeah, so, you know, once your office had contacted me and said, hey, look, Rick at Trailer Park wants to do this, and I said, okay. We all jumped on a Zoom call, and
it was like 8 p.m. or 9 p.m.
Yeah, it was like 8 or 9. It was late at night, and we all jumped on a Zoom call, and you all explained what Rick had came to you and said, and we said, okay. And he was like, we want to do the Black Lives Matter. And as I was looking at it, I thought about it, and I was like, there are so many of these Black Lives Matter installations all over the place, but the reason for us to come together and mobilize these efforts was specific to our community. And for me, it was thinking about Tony McDade and how he had been erased and how, his experience had been left out. And I was like, no, I think that we need to change that design. I think we need to change what this looks like. If we're going to send the message, we'll send a message. And so looking at it, I wanted to make sure that all led with the trans colors, because as a trans man, I know what that feels like to be erased. I know what that feels like to see our demographic not be cared for. And so Rick and his team were awesome. They let me lead the way. They let me create the design and really, change what that message and really amplify and make it much bigger than the initial message. But Rick and his team were awesome, super awesome, and they were so incredible with their flexibility. They were so incredible with the way that they were available, at any point of the day. I think that call, we ended up on that call till 11? Yeah. Maybe 12 o'clock at night, having that conversation with Rick and his team, and they were amazing.
Yeah, and the results speak for themselves.
Absolutely.
I mean, I don't know if that frame is up right now, but I mean, so we are thrilled, speaking of Rick, to have joining us via Zoom, Rick Iserman, CEO of Trailer Park right there on Hollywood Boulevard. So welcome, Rick.
Thank you, guys. It's so great to kind of be reliving that experience of the year. It was one of the most amazing moments in the life of our agency, just for me personally. So it's so great to see your faces and be celebrating that moment again. So thank you for that.
It's almost like we all knew there was a space, right? There was a space, and it just was kind of sitting there. And I don't mean physical space, but as an emotional, thought space. The moment was speaking to it. We couldn't quite define it, but we wanted to rally around something. The city departments wanted to rally around something. We wanted to rally around something, and then come B.L.A.C. And you were the ones that we rallied around because you just defined the moment for everyone. And so it was, I think it was such a labor of love and purpose. So a bit of background on your entertainment group, Rick, for our viewing audience. Trailer Park Group harnesses the collective power of the strategic, creative, and production expertise across various content and platforms to deliver campaigns that result in break the internet creative. That is certainly true with the viral success of the street design. So Rick, take us through your process of how you and your team came up with the exciting idea leading to this collaboration with B.L.A.C. in my office.
Yeah, thanks for that. We're definitely not street painters. This is the first time we'd ever done it. Hopefully not the last. But at the time, just given all the racial injustice that was happening and so much disruption, tragedy happening in the world, our staff was motivated to just send a message and really demonstrate our values and what we stood for. We've been on Hollywood Boulevard in a high-rise building for a long, long time, and we wanted to send a message. So in fact, one night some of our staff came in and cut out huge letters with messages of support that they hung in the windows that said, "We stand with you." And it was a time of pride and so much happening in Hollywood at the time. And unfortunately, our landlord asked us to take those down, and we took that at that moment as a challenge to say, we're going to send a bigger message. We're going to send a permanent message. And our offices actually look down on Hollywood Boulevard, right in front of where the red carpet events are, where the Oscars are. That street is shut down all the time. So we said, let's shut down this street for a really good reason, and let's send a message to the world of all Black Lives Matter. And so this was 4 days before the march was happening, and we got on the phone and we just started calling everyone we knew. And we just said, we're going to be painting Hollywood Boulevard with this message 2 football fields long, and we'd love for you to be a part of it. And not many people returned our phone call. In fact, no one returned my phone call, except for one, and that was Councilmember and your entire team jumping on board and saying, well, we know this group and we can introduce you to B.L.A.C. and let's collaborate and see if this can happen. suddenly we were 3 days before the event happening, and it was just a moment, just as you described it. Lucky took the idea and made it better, and it was like the water had parted as Councilmember, your entire team got on board, and it was amazing to see everyone mobilize for this important cause. No one was debating various issues. They were just saying, what do I need to do to make it happen, and count me in. So it was really a phenomenal experience that culminated on Saturday morning at 6 a.m. Not only 200 of our staff and their families out painting with their children, B.L.A.C was out there. Councilmember, I know we got to paint a little bit together, but just the community come out, the families, the kids, people walked up and said, give me a paintbrush, how can I help? And the painting that All Black Lives Matter went down the boulevard, expanded up onto the walls of the boarded up storefronts, that suddenly, this negativity and so much hate going on in the world was suddenly covered with messages of positivity. And so it was incredible to be a part of it, and just a huge thank you to you guys, for letting us do our small part.
Extremely well said, and thank you. And I want to pause and give props to the city departments, because when we contacted DCA, Department of Transportation, Public Works, Bureau of Engineering, our own street services, they were like, we're on board. Where do we meet? How do we do this? Let's do it. I mean, just immediately. So I just want to pause there. Now, Rick, you have an ongoing collaboration with GERALD and Lucky and B.L.A.C. This wasn't a one-time thing. It wasn't just a year ago and then we all move on to the next chapter. The chapter is continuing. So please share with us your ongoing collaboration.
Sure. So I'll start. I know, again, Rick and his team have made themselves available just, ongoing. And, with Trailer Park Group being a media company, there's been a great opportunity for some very effective and sort of ongoing storytelling. And so Rick and his team has been really great in helping not only chronicle the experience of last summer, but to create ongoing opportunities, messaging, and experiences centered around collaboration, addressing inequity, hope, love, and justice. And so that's another great opportunity. But even coming out of sort of the pandemic year, gratefully, we're really exploring and ideating what do other types of activations look like as well. And so since the beginning of the work, safety, our community safety has been number one. And so now that we have a lot more opportunity to do more sort of responsible in-person activations and other types of storytelling and engagement opportunities, we're really excited to see those happen with Rick and his team, and then many of our other collaborative partners also.
That's fantastic.
Yes.
Rick?
Well said. I mean, we stood that day. I know the three of us stood that day and said, this will be the first time we work together. It will not be the last.
Yes.
Right.
And here we are.
I'm so happy for you guys. It's so incredible, the organization that you've created, and being honored today, and we'll continue to support you guys however we can. So a huge congrats from me.
I think what we're talking about here is 2020 wasn't just a summer of change. It ushered in an era of change. And I think the LGBTQ community understands that, because we fought the battles. Our ancestors, the people that we're standing on the shoulders of, they kind of laid it down for us. We have a template, and this community knows what to do with those templates to move this, this effort forward. So it's incredible. So, Lucky, you worked with Rick and his team to create the design that is now known the world over, right here on Hollywood Boulevard. So tell us, gentlemen, what that experience was like, and can you tell us the symbolism behind the particular color scheme of the letters? That is very, very intentional.
Absolutely. So with the first iteration that we did with Rick and his team, the all is in trans colors to represent our trans community that sits at the intersection of being black and trans. And then the black is in the solid yellow, and that is to uplift the entire black diaspora, like everyone that identifies under black or African American. That is to symbolize those folks. And then lives is in our non-binary colors, so that we represent our non-binary and intersex folks. And then matter is your standard gay pride flag, right? So that we capture everyone. But it was very intentional that we capture everyone within the spectrum, whether you're gay, straight, bi, pansexual, you know, intersex, trans, any of those different identities. We wanted to make sure that we captured everyone. And there were so many different folks that came to me or sent me messages on Instagram or social media to say, oh my God, I see myself in the installation. And so I think that working with Rick and his team was just incredible. And, you know, they were saying, hey, what color is this supposed to be? And they made sure that the colors were the right colors. And even with the second iteration, we worked with Creative Paving Solutions. And Hadar and his team were just as awesome, and they made sure that the colors were correct. And even within the second installation, we laid a black, an intentional black, solid black on top, you know, for the colors to go on top of, to really recognize our ancestors and all of those folks that came before us. The Martin Luther Kings, the Marsha P. Johnson, the Malcolm X's, and we wanted to make sure we uplifted all of the leaders that came before us as well.
And may I add to that also,
Yes,
because I completely center myself around that, and I just really want to elevate. Also, the movement was really centered around, like Lucky said, creating opportunities for us all to see each other at the same time. So often when it comes to, you know, advocacy and activism work, folks are forced to choose which part of themselves to rally behind. Do I celebrate being black or LGBTQ plus, or of a certain, you know, experience? And so we really wanted to center creating that intersectional opportunity for those of us who sit at those intersectional spaces to celebrate, but also, again, individuals who rally, ally, and support those communities also. So like Lucky said, it was a lot of intentionality that went into the design and the installation.
Right. I think that the work you've done has defined Hollywood Boulevard in this particular location as the place where literally everyone, no matter what one's identity is welcome. And it is expressed in physical form. There's no other place like it. And I just think that you've really done that. So based on a 2021 report, we now know that less than 3% of Los Angeles landmark designations are linked to Black history. But last year, we worked together on the initiative, creating a permanent space commemorating the cultural and historic significance of the march. Just months after the actual event, but we knew it was historic and just history defining. Now, adjacent to the permanent street design marker is a commemorative street sign memorializing that march. So, Gerald, what does this marker mean for your organization and your ongoing efforts?
Yes, thank you for that, Councilmember. And just again, when we look at, you know, the symbolism of being able to commemorate experience, that kind of what, to quote what Lucky said, that reminds the world that we do exist, and not only a very slither of who we are, but all of us. And so when we look at sort of this marker and it being at such a historic place within not just our city, but in our world, it reminds our communities, it reminds the world, and even those to come, that there's a space for all of us. And not only that, we are celebrated, and there are a lot of people, one of my colleagues tells me that we are ancestors in the making. And so when generations before can look back and say there were people who were fighting for us who didn't even know us, that creates a certain level of history and commemoration that is, again, bigger than any of us as individuals.
Yeah, incredible, incredible.
And you know, I whenever I go to see the art, and oh my goodness, my heart just explodes.
Same.
You know, because you know, when we laid the first iteration with Rick and his team, I laid down next to it, you know, just to see what the size of it was in comparison to my body, right? And I was like, I cannot believe that a piece of art that I've designed is this big, right? Yeah. And I want to hope that when my grandchildren are older and, you know, my grandchildren's grandchildren are seeing this, that they're explaining to each other why it was necessary, not why it's still necessary. So, you know, I think that we've made a pretty big splash in the world, and I'm hoping that it carries on for generations.
I have absolutely no doubt that it will. You know why? Because you're carrying on. Rick is carrying on. We're carrying this on. So I think that bodes very well for this message long term. It's changed everything. So here we are, nearly 1 year since the historic All Black Lives Matter March. We're literally 5 days away from the anniversary. I have the distinct honor to present my friends and collaborators, GERALD and LUCKIE, and all of the board members of Black LGBTQ plus Activists for Change with this resolution. You are all superb leaders, history makers, and profoundly deserving of being an honoree at this year's LGBT Heritage Month. So, GERALD, would you like to say a few words in honor of this recognition?
Absolutely, and again, thank you, Councilmember. You and your team have been tremendous partners in this work, so thank you. Definitely a particular thank you to LUCKIE and the entire Black team who stepped up to the mark and has continued to do so ever since then. Also a special thank you to Mayor GARCETTI and Controller GALPERIN for their support throughout this entire process. Again, all of the city and county agencies as well that showed up and really created the sheer definition of what collaboration looks like. Again, also to hold space and to continue to elevate our forefathers and foremothers on whose shoulders we stand. I could never look forward without looking backwards. So I thank my ancestors as well as our elders and as well as our other siblings in this work who are doing this work consistently without as much sort of visibility or kind of support. And so I want to encourage those individuals to continue to move forward in the work, and that their work is not in vain, and that we are, again, siblings in this work together. And even though we might not ever lock arms, we are spiritually together in this work. So a special thank you to everybody who is doing this work also, and again the community and sort of and the thousands and thousands of folks who showed up to prove not only in word but in action that all Black lives do matter. So I want to again thank everyone who is continuing this work, everyone who is a part of this work, and everyone who would join this work, because we were able to do this together and continue to do it together.
GERALD, amazing, thank you. And I'm going to go to Rick for last words, and we'll close with LUCKIE last words. Rick, what would you add? Oh, you're on mute.
Sign of the time, right?
It was so smooth. No, I just, again, want to celebrate you guys and continue to find ways to work together on behalf of all of my LGBTQ plus staff at my office. This is super important to them. It's important to our entire organization. And so let's continue to find ways to partner in the future. We have the luxury, as once we move back into our building, to look down on that artwork installation every day. So that is it's a huge gift. We walk down it every day as we go out and look out our windows at it. So thank you again for that, and so glad you guys are being recognized. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rick. LUCKIE?
You know, I appreciate everything that your office has done. Again, GERALD, you know, he's been my brother through this entire journey. Our community, you know, for being resilient, for being superheroes. I just want to thank everyone that supported us and was there for us and made sure that we kept going. You know, I don't know if anybody knows, and I'm going to put you out there. But, you know, we pushed so hard, GERALD passed out at the march. Like, he got all the way to the end of the march and literally got to the end and passed out. And so, like, that's
it's a stressful time. Yeah.
So, yeah, so we went through all of the things that folks go through, but you know, we kept going, and we couldn't keep going without a village. You know, like the saying, "It takes a village" is very much true. It's very much real, especially when it comes to our community. And you know, I think that the collaboration between me and GERALD and the whole Black organization, because it's made up of the LGBTQ folks, not just one sector. Right. And so I think that collaboration in itself is showing other communities how to work together. And then our collaboration with the city and all of the different departments that literally made mountains move in a matter of 48 hours. I want to appreciate all those folks, and just anyone that said, you guys can do it. Yeah. I definitely appreciate all those folks.
Well, thank you so much. I want to take a moment to thank my team, David Cano, Dan Halden, David Hiron, Sean Starkey, my amazing team, William Ayala, and then my entire organization supported this effort because you led us, and we thank you for that privilege.
And you and your entire team has become friends
Right.
in this work. So thank you again. Yeah.
And thank you for letting us lead.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
of the moment that we were in. You know, yes, there was a large visibility around Black folks, but thank you for as Black queer folks. Thank you for letting us lead.
And if I may very briefly just to add to that, that is another great example that other community members can take from when we look at how do I, no matter what I is defined as, how do I show up? And so that I feel is through effective collaboration. So that means relationship building, having dialogue, and being able to rally your resources around moving forward those who might not have as many. And so I definitely encourage community to look at how do I bring what I currently have and who I currently represent to those who could use the support.
And
Right.
I think anyone who's watched this or is watching this, and anyone that you've reached over the past year plus, that you'll never even know, you've empowered so many people who felt powerless by your example. So I think that's your legacy in the immediate. So
Well, I
I
appreciate
want to
that.
thank all of you for joining us today. Don't forget to join us. Pride Month continues on June 24th. We will honor Snehal Desai and East-West players right here on Channel 35. So as we close out today's event, we'll hear from other city leaders who join us in this celebration. Be well, Los Angeles, and have a healthy and happy Pride. Thank you.
It's always a great personal honor for me to participate in the City of LA's LGBTQ Heritage Month. And this year, like everything else, it's different. But it is so meaningful and so important that we're together. Hi, I'm Mike Fewer, the Los Angeles City Attorney. I'm very proud to be an ally of the lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer and questioning community. From my time in the State Assembly representing Hollywood and West Hollywood, writing laws to advance equality on taxes, health care, and retirement benefits for same-sex couples, to my current role as city attorney, standing up for victims of hate crimes and leading the nation and filing briefs with the U.S. Supreme Court to defend the LGBTQ members of our workplace, to assure protections under Title VII, take a stand against discrimination in the Colorado Baker case, and, of course, to support marriage equality in 2015, because being able to marry whom you love is a fundamental civil right. And the City of Los Angeles needs to be always in the forefront of epic battles like that. This year, the theme for LGBTQ Heritage Month in the city is frontline advocacy, honoring those who are working tirelessly during the pandemic. I'm very pleased today to be joined by Oscar De La O, who serves as Vice President of B.L.A.C Human Services. I'm very proud to be able to honor, Oscar, your organization's crucial community work. Welcome, Oscar. Could you please tell us a little bit about B.L.A.C?
Sure, good afternoon, and thank you very much for including us in the LA community as you celebrate LGBT. B.L.A.C started 32 years ago to address a specific issue around HIV. Since that time, we have expanded our services to include mental health and substance abuse, outpatient treatment, and most recently, a health clinic, but always with the focus of removing barriers that our community encounters that are the product of poor health outcomes. So for us, it's the empowerment of the individual and advocating on their behalf.
Is there anything else, Oscar, about B.L.A.C that you'd like to add? Anything particularly important for our audience?
I think having been part of B.L.A.C for the last 32 years, I can say that it's a very unique organization because we serve a community that's vulnerable, that has a lot of resiliency within them. They want to improve their lives, they want to help their families and be good, civic-minded individuals, but they encounter so many issues. But it is a joy and a privilege to be here at Bienestar.
That's very well said, Oscar. Oscar, thank you so much. Really appreciate your service to our communities. You are uniquely situated because you are serving particularly vulnerable members of our community at an extremely challenging time. And all of us in the City Attorney's Office are really pleased to be able to salute Bienestar Human Services during this LGBTQ Heritage Month. And now I'm very excited to toss this to some of my City Hall colleagues, hand this off to them for their introductions of their community honorees for LGBTQ Heritage Month. Again, I'm Mike Fewer, the Los Angeles City Attorney. Thanks for watching.
Councilmember Mark Ridley Thomas here. It's with great honor and excitement that I recognize LGBT Heritage Month here in the city of Los Angeles. I'm proud to serve in a city that has led in uplifting the LGBT community, advocating for their rights, and celebrating their contributions. Los Angeles's character, vibrancy, and inclusivity is due in no small part to the members of this very community and its allies. Now more than ever, it's important for us to celebrate one another as we continue to combat acts of violence and hate towards marginalized communities. And I'm proud to recognize the contributions of a particular organization that is an unstoppable force in the fight against bigotry and the struggle to build a better world right here in Los Angeles at the LGBT Center. And I'm excited to uplift the LGBT Center South, where we are here today, that opened right before we faced the pandemic in February of 2020. This center, located right here in the heart of the 10th District, is a welcome and much-needed presence in the Leimert Park community and beyond. It offers a range of resources and services that predominantly serve the LGBT community and persons of color living in South Los Angeles who are disproportionately at higher risk of contracting STIs and HIV. Furthermore, this center also provides mental health services, community advocacy opportunities, and employment support to holistically respond to the needs of the members of this community. In celebration of LGBT Heritage Month, I would like to recognize the LGBT Center South and their unstoppable CEO, Lori L. Jean, with this award on behalf of the center. Not only has she been a transformative leader of the center, we've known each other more years than we care to document, but she has also been one of the most seasoned and effective leaders in the civil rights struggle around the rights of gay and lesbian people for many years. She plans to retire in July of 2022 after a thoughtful transition to Joe Hollendonor. She's worked tirelessly for 4 decades. Now, Lori, thank you for your countless contributions to making our community more equitable and inclusive. It is my honor to turn it over to Lori for a few words about this important month. Happy Pride.
Well, thank you, Council Member. It's an honor to have you here at Center South and to sort of culminate the many decades that we've known each other. And, you know, opening up Center South was one of the real jewels in the crown of the center. Over the last many years, we've been embraced by the community. As you will remember, when you were on the Board of Supervisors, you were supportive of our plan to get this open here, and you've continued to be a great champion for us since we moved here. And I can think of no better way to celebrate Pride Month at Center South than to have you here.
Thank you.
And on behalf of all of us at the center, I want to thank you for recognizing Center South and for your very kind words about me.
Thank you very much. We appreciate it.
everyone, and happy Pride. This is CAPRI MADDOX, Executive Director of the LA Civil Rights Department, and I am honored to welcome you to Pride Month here in Los Angeles. This month, we recognize the LGBTQ trailblazers of Los Angeles who are building a more inclusive and affirming city. I also want to acknowledge leaders like Councilmember Mitch O'Farrell, who continue to lead the fight for LGBTQ rights and inclusion. The LGBTQ rights movement is a movement for dignity and freedom for all people, no matter who you are, what you look like, or who you love. And that movement has been marching on in Los Angeles for more than 50 years. It was right here in Los Angeles that organizers launched the first gay pride parade in 1970, where Jules Tice Williams created one of the first gay bars for the Black community, and where in 2016, LA became the first major American city to establish a transgender advisory council. But we know that the fight is not over, not even close. To this day, trans women, particularly trans women of color, face higher rates of violence and hate crimes. Our LGBTQ youth are more than twice as likely to experience homelessness, and discrimination against the LGBTQ community continues to occur in housing and employment. That is why we need our Black and brown LGBTQ activists fighting for justice and for a world where every trans, non-binary, queer, or questioning individual is free to be themselves. LA Civil Rights, along with our Transgender Advisory Council, is honored to stand with you every step of the way. Happy Pride Month. Keep the faith and keep the fight for a more inclusive tomorrow.